Welcome everybody to the Lynn and Friends show, as we all see it, with obviously the beautiful Toronto. I'm Scott Jones. We want to thank everybody for joining us, including all of our friends. But before we start, a quick reminder. I know we keep saying it, but this is how the world works. If you like the show, hey, even if you don't like the show, subscribe to it, share with your friends. And if you really don't like it, share with friends and find out why you don't like it. You'll find out you're wrong. Your life will get better. And then everybody's happy. So do that.
Hi, everybody.
Lynn, how you doing, darling?
Good. And thank you, Barry, for helping us with our topic today.
What happened?
I don't know if that's good right there. Common sense. Not so common.
It's interesting thought because we were talking about, things that I was mentioning something that I believe about firearms. I'm not going to get into that on the show because it's too polarizing. But to me, there's some things that I believe are common sense, but that's to me. So it's a difficult thing to say what is common sense because everything's about your own perspective.
Right.
So common sense isn't quite as common as I think it is because one man's crazy is another man's sanity. Barry, you jumped in knee deep on this. You want to kind of start us off?
Oh, yeah.
Well, the reason why I talk about it quite a lot is because coming from England, which may not be the right reason, but I'm using that as an excuse. I grew up in a very grounded, very down to earth, very like street smart, solid of the earth type culture where I grew up in England. And so for me, common sense was just like obvious stuff. And so around people who have these perspectives that don't seem to be grounded in reality, there's part of me goes, I may not be around this person much. I'll move away from that sort of thing. But the thing that I love about common sense when it works is that people can find common ground. Because the thing about common is it's not unique. It's not isolated. So if people have common sense, ideally we can meet somewhere in the middle and have a conversation where there's constructive creativity, connection, that sort of thing. But the thing is, it's the people who purport to know what they're talking about. And one I'll put on the table right now is the people who are very attached to being right versus being honest or being real or being loving that tend to be off base when it comes to common sense. So there's a few little things put in the fire.
Right. Well, my assumption is that banging your head against the brick wall, common sense, you don't do that. But then I also went to a show where I paid to watch karate guys break bricks with their heads. So I guess it's all a matter of circumstance and perspective, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Subjective.
I mean, common sense is common sense. I mean, the thing is also that, I've also got a master's degree in another thing I've studied over the years too. Doesn't change my common sense perspective. Common sense doesn't require academic requirements or certain levels. It's more about where you are in an environment where you know what left and right is, up and down, right and wrong. Those sort of things. It's almost that simplistic in a way.
Do you notice sometimes people are so smart and intelligent, and then they lack a lot of common sense too?
I absolutely know that. I just the illustration when I was in high school. There were a bunch of us who got drafted into the bridge club because we were caught playing poker by a math teacher, and apparently the headmaster, the principal of the school, the only card game he would allow would be bridge, because bridge was what's the one I'm looking for? It was a upper class game. Poker was very working class, whereas bridge was refined. So we became the bridge team, even though we were playing poker. That's what we got caught for. But one of the guys wanted to join the club. He was so smart he couldn't figure out the game. he was so academic, but he couldn't even tie shoelaces. That was how far off the end of the spectrum of common sense he was. So yes, academia doesn't match necessarily common sense.
Right.
What's Rex got to say about that?
Academics not matching common sense. Well, most definitely. I mean, that almost goes without saying. Common sense would tell you that they don't exist together. However, I do take exception at two terms. One is common and the other is sense, because what's common to you and me may not be common to anybody else. What's obvious to you or me may not be obvious to them. And to make sense of anything, how do they do that? And do they do that? And so some people would say people will always let you down. I say people will always surprise you. But there is some hope in that if you get good at pattern recognition. The mathematician Polya said, if it looks like a duck, walks like a duck, and sounds like a duck, probably a duck. So if you get good at noticing what the people around you do when they make decisions, good or bad or right or wrong, or what kind of decisions they usually make, you can pretty much predict with a fair amount of accuracy what they're likely to do in the situation, that is now presented to them. And most likely they will follow the pattern if you're good at predicting. However, they can still surprise you.
That's what I was going to say. However, I've lived in different regions and common sense is different in even different parts of this country. People's mentalities are different. So I don't know if it's always the same. I learn new things, like down in Florida, when I first moved there, everything's a Coke, right? Like to me, common sense is it's a Coke, Sprite, and a Diet Coke. But to them, everything was a Coke, but what type? What kind? And you're like, huh? You go,
Give me a grape Coke.
Yeah. Yeah. So
in South Miami, it's all comes in a kilo, and it's very white and it's very powdery.
Well, also there's like the difference between hospitality. Like Northern hospitality is like, what are you doing here? And Southern hospitality is like, get your ass off my porch.
Hospitality? I'm not sure. You're
absolutely right. Depending on the region you're in and that can vary within a town. I mean, like Milwaukee is one of the test cities, as is, I think, Dallas or Houston and different places around the country, because it's a quadrant, 25, 25, 25, 25 of different ethnic groups. So if they want to test anything, they bring it to like Milwaukee or Dallas and these different towns in order to see how the different ethnicities respond to something. So across the street from you, the Mexican restaurant here and the Thai restaurant there can be completely different kinds of common sense.
Right.
So you make an excellent point.
Right.
Yeah, some things that might be common in certain areas. You go, like, remember when I came down to Kansas City, you were there? We thought it'd be common to find some good barbecue. And I was like, so far, Billings, Montana had better barbecue than where I went, So some things are not as common or opinionated as what you think. Or it wasn't even prepared like I thought it would be. I was like, I didn't even know how to order my brisket because the brisket wasn't done the same. I was like, oh.
So my question, when do you guys recognize when you're using common sense and the other person doesn't have any?
Yeah.
Well, isn't that always the case?
Hi, Laura.
Is it you or them?
As a malignant narcissist, isn't that true for everyone? My common sense is better than yours, no matter what.
That's what I'm saying. Is it you or them?
Isn't that why people argue?
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I would like the opinion of the truly last nice man on the planet, John Horton. What do you think, brother?
He was wondering.
First of all, I'm always right, so we'll get that out of the way right off the bat. Just in the theme of what you're all saying, I think common sense, honestly, especially if you travel or you're in that quadrant that Rex was talking about, you got to have an open mind. You can't always think you're right. And we know those people that do always think they're right. So I think just by having common sense, depending on where you're at, whether it's barbecue or whatever it is just having an open mind. And even though you don't agree with the people that don't have common sense, smile and nod. You'll eventually figure out that they're wrong. But I just think having an open mind, no matter where you go, no matter what you're doing, and you might think you had common sense in a certain situation, you might be totally wrong.
Outnumbered.
Exactly.
How about we change the notion of common sense to like street smarts?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's going to vary on what street you're on, but there's certain things that you would want to have in place, like looking both ways before you cross. You can call it common sense, you can call it survival skill.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody does it.
Yeah, but Rex, if you're in America, you look left, then you look right, then you look left again, and that's common sense. If you're in England, you look right, then you look left. So there is some still variations on that.
Well, they say, when in Rome.
Well, a good point. Like, for example, I refuse to drive when I'm in Australia or England or anywhere. I just go, you know what? I am so conditioned to drive in the United States. I prefer not to be the driver. And yet I have lots of English and Australian friends who come to the United States and go, oh, let me drive. I'm like,
But but when you're not driving, you're
When I'm
technically.
in the car, pal.
But when you're
Right.
not driving, you're on the
Right.
wrong side of the
Right.
street.
No, but
Well, I mean, in New York City, the first time I ever went there, I didn't know that jaywalking was okay. You know, like, I didn't know that if you just outrun the taxis, it's okay. So,
right.
so common sense finally kicked in. Like, I'm just going to go with the crowd, and I'll be in the middle. And if one of them gets hit on either side, then I'm all right.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, I may take this a little bit off the rails, so please stop me if you do. I'm just going to ask a question, and then if I'm asked a question to go on, I'll explain why I asked this question. We may have talked about this, but I can't remember. Is it common sense to pee in a pool?
Not if you're going to turn out to be green afterwards.
Well,
Is it common sense to pee in the punch?
You don't swim in the punch.
So, John, it may not be common sense. It might be common practice, which is different.
Okay. Now I will finish my story, and then if you want to mute me, please do. So we're on spring break. My wife, 8 of us there, and we're in a swim up area of the bar and having a great time. And my daughter disappears and then comes back. My older daughter, no pee in the pool. Thank you, Laura. I've never peed in the pool in 58 years. So she comes back. I'm like, what are you doing? She goes, I just peed in the pool. I'm like, what? Well, I got to move. So they hate when I talk to strangers on vacation. Hate it. So I find this table of gentlemen in the middle of the area. And I went up and they're like, can we help you? I'm like, I'm just doing this really to piss off those other 7 people. They don't like when I do this, and they laugh. And then I said, I got a question. And they said, what? And I said, is it common? I didn't say common sense. I said, my daughter just peed in the pool. I'm totally grossed out. I'm getting out. Do you guys pee in the pool? And the guy looked at me and goes, I'm doing it right now. And I was standing 2 feet away from him. So I left, and then some lady at the bar, at the swim-up bar, was sitting there, and she goes, I overheard your conversation. I'm like, I got to get out of this pool, man. I can't. This is crazy. I said, wait a minute. I saw you here at 10 o'clock this morning. It's 2:30 in the afternoon. She looked at me and she said, I haven't gotten up. I'm like, I'm out. I'm done. I got to the pool. So apparently, I'm the only person in the country that has never peed in the pool.
Well, that's not true.
No, in that pool, perhaps, not in the country.
Not
In
true.
that pool.
But here's the thing: is I've never peed in the pool either. But remember the Olympian, the swimmer who not that many years ago said, "Well, of course we all pee in the pool. We can't get out and take a break." And I was like, "What are you telling me, these people?" And I'm like, "How can you be competing and peeing at the same time?" It's just.
But the worst thing is, welcome, Scott. The worst thing is here's where I'll stop this. After having this conversation with people from all over the world and apparently standing in their pee, you see people get in the pool, they swim underwater, they get up, and they spit out water. And I'm like, you are not. You don't have Montezuma's revenge when you get home from Jamaica or Cancun. You've been swimming in pee for the last 3 days. I'm done. Thank you for.
Can I burst a bubble here though?
Yeah.
If you go to a lake, you're swimming in fish pee and
fish. Yeah, I was gonna say,
I'm not getting any water except my own shower for the rest of my life.
And you're suggesting there's no pee there?
Not in your shower either.
Coming through the spout.
Wow.
So, do you think there's toilets in the water for the fish and everything that's in there?
I'm not getting in the water. No.
Toilet.
Oh.
This just reminds me of this sticker I just got. Do you guys see this?
Yeah, flamingo.
This says no flocks given.
No fuck.
Those are all those people, not me.
Oh.
I'm like, oh no.
Well, let's just say this conversation has taken a deep dive.
Very good.
This conversation is proof that we need to take a break for a while, reset, run out of shit to talk about. John's not even talking about mortgages anymore. He's talking about
What? Hover rich.
And Rex is trying to figure out if that's actually a form of propulsion swimming. And hey, guys, common sense says we're burnt out. That's what I'm thinking.
Hey, Scooter, you just came in at the
Perfect time.
great.
for
And
that.
the
Timing is
time,
everything.
instant time
Timing is
now.
everything. You came in on the P jokes.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So
John, now I'm scared to go swimming. I'm serious.
Scared.
I don't want to go
If we have
now.
a pool party, we just,
That's why they put all the chlorine in the pool.
I know.
Yes.
Right.
But
Chlorine
now,
kills
you see
everything.
salmon
Yeah.
go upstream. They jump. They try to jump to the next level. It's cleaner.
I don't care about the pee as much as I care about those Tootsie Rolls that go floating past every now and then.
Yeah, that's another story.
that's why I don't go to water parks. No way. No. The
Oh,
water
Okay.
parks and the
Let's-
wave
let's-
pool.
let's-
I've seen it. It's
all right. So we were talking about common sense here. So common sense tells you don't take your
Just
dad.
don't open your mouth underwater is what John was.
This is the
Tom was
last.
saying, don't take the water in and spit it out like a fountain.
right.
That would
Okay,
be
so
common
I'm
sense.
sorry, Lynn. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. This is why somebody decided to make these filters for water and made a lot of money. That's all I gotta say. So they could market to people like John. And say, you worry about pee water? Here, take and filter it through this.
Now, obviously, we were talking, and there's a lot of humorous sides we can take to common sense. There's a lot of things, but there's also a very real side of common sense
Yeah.
that is disturbing, and that is at the higher levels of everything from higher levels of business, higher levels of education, higher levels of government, where it seems that bullying and being right has replaced common sense and common kindness completely, and almost irrevocably it's broken. And that's where, when you look, and I'm watching the Senate, and I'm watching Congress, and I'm watching, and I don't care which side of the aisle you're rooting for. There's no common sense about what are we doing for the American people if all we're doing is fighting with each other. And we're all sitting back and saying, yeah, go Democrats. Yeah, go Republicans. They all suck and they all suck. And guess what? We still got people dying out in our streets. We still have underinsured,
Right.
underemployed. We have people who are sick, who need mental health help. Where is all of that? Where is all of that? It seemed like it was such a simple concept. We're going to vote people to be in charge to deal with these things so that we could go about our lives and be fruitful and do all of this. And it's not what's happening anymore.
Well,
It is
people.
not close to what's happening anymore. And everybody, all they can do is blame people instead of everybody coming together and saying, we're here for a job to represent the people, not to represent a president. This or that. Here to represent
The humanity. They forget the humanity, and they forget it's just like when a couple's fighting in front of their kids. The kids are in the bedroom, and they forget that the kids are listening. The politicians forget that people are watching and stuff.
Like
What,
that,
Barry?
Scott,
Barry.
what you said is key word, represent, because one of the people I follow on YouTube talks about this. That the problem is, see, one party in particular, but both in a way, they're more focused on ruling than they are representing. The trouble is, the government has been set up like a monarchy. And the thing is, America was created to avoid the monarchy. So the structure in place that isn't about people being put in place to take the people's requests into one place, discuss, disseminate, and get everything working. They moved to this place called Washington, D.C., like it is the kingdom. And it's set up in a way that is extremely unlikely to succeed as a Democratic or Republican structure, because it's about the top dog at the top. Everyone is sycophant to them. And nobody's standing up and saying, hey, what about the people? That's the challenge. We have a society in this country. And it's not like other countries are much better, frankly. I mean, England's in the mess right now as well. And they have a monarchy and a parliament. So there's ways of doing it differently.
Well, that's what the Constitution was about. That's what the Constitution was about. That's why they drafted it the way they did. And they had all the different people from the different parties. And that's why they drafted it the way they did. And it's not being followed.
Go ahead. I don't want to cut you off.
No, go ahead, Rex.
Well, I mean, you're absolutely correct. I mean, the idea of the Constitution was that the law determines what the people do. People don't determine what the law does. I mean, although you had to have a consensus to start with, but that you would go to the standard of the law to determine how people are, and you would have justices. You would have three different bodies to check each other, and you'd have justices to make a final ruling, and blah 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 blah. I hate saying that, but I did it anyway. The point is that, and it's designed to be very slow to change, so you can't overthrow it easily. So everything is set up with the idea in mind. And since that was founded, people have constantly rewritten things in order to do away with the very premise on which this country was founded on. And that's why we're in the mess that we're in today, because we've given away things, we've amended things, we've done things that, and we allow people in, and there's no checks and balances on certain things to certain people, like our Supreme Court justices. And so the good news, though, is that we now see it. I mean, it's been going on for decades and decades, 250 years been going on, but it has come to this kind of boiling point where now everybody's beginning to notice it. And hopefully, if nothing else, the women and the youth of this country will make the changes. I mean, the men should, but the men are lame, like most of us are anyway. But the women who have a real stake in preserving their own rights, and the youth who are tired of being killed in their schools, should really do whatever they need to do in order to make sure that this government. Now, I'm going to wrap this part of my conversation up with a friend of mine shared a meme today that said something to the effect of, I don't know that I'll quote it right, but I don't care about a billionaire who doesn't want to show his taxes. I care more about the poor people who become millionaires not wanting to show, or something like that, right? And I said, you follow what I just said?
No.
You look perplexed. The meme is about, well, I'll just name a name, but the meme was about Trump not wanting to share his taxes.
Okay, yeah.
Right? He didn't want to show it. So this meme is, I don't care about a billionaire who doesn't want to show his taxes to the American people. I'm more concerned with the politicians, the people who start out with nothing and become millionaires because they become politicians. In other words, they've grifted the system.
Mm-hmm.
And my thought, I care about both.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just as concerned about a millionaire, billionaire president or whomever not sharing their taxes as I am with anybody who has no money and ends up with money through a political system. I mean, why would it be one or the other? Obviously, transparency should be transparency for everyone, like the law should apply equally to everyone. It doesn't. I mean, you can see that it doesn't, and then that's part of the problem that we've had. I consulted for a year on the OJ trial, and people always said, well, if you had money and you could, afford a good defense, you get a different defense than you do if you're a poor person. Well, we see the same thing going on today. If you're rich, you're privileged, you got stuff. There are exceptions, and people bend over backwards to make sure that nothing goes wrong. So justice isn't applied equally. Common sense obviously isn't applied equally. And all the things that you mentioned about the Constitution isn't being applied the way it was intended to be applied, because it's been eroded by the very people who were elected to preserve it.
Yep. And I want to make sure, I'm going to say, I don't know. I assume you're saying this too. There's no one side that's right.
Right.
Everything.
Yeah.
I agree. I'm a moderate.
The system is jacked up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It has gotten
Both sides.
to the point. Well, no, on both sides.
Yeah.
Again, it's called doing math. If
Yeah.
anybody still knows how to do that in this day.
Core or regular?
But when you start with $172,000 a year job, and you do it for 4 years, it's 172 times 4, and yet you come out with millions. Something ain't right. Somebody's got the math jacked up.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh.
There's money coming from somewhere. The fact that that they can inside trade on the stock market.
Yeah. The lobbyists.
Okay.
Yep. The lobbyists.
I mean,
Martha Stewart got caught somehow.
That's just it. It's unfair. One person gets thrown in jail for it. One person was the Speaker of the House and has $200 million and lives in San Francisco. I mean, and the documents are there. This isn't like, oh, you're saying this, but it's not right for anybody. I mean, she's not the only one that did that.
No,
I mean, there's,
it's on both sides.
when Pfizer, when the pandemic hit, I mean, there were 56 on, spread on both parties that were trading Pfizer stock. Now, why would you trade Pfizer stock? Why would that happen? I mean, the whole system. This is a talk I did back in 1998, I think. In 1970, we as a country took 2 billion pills. Sounds like a lot. In 1998, we took 186 billion pills.
Right.
There's 526 legislators in Washington, D.C. In 1998, there were 2,586 pharma lobbyists.
Mhm.
There were 5 for every representative.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk common sense. Let's
Right.
get back to the topic.
Yeah.
When you get 5 lobbyists for every person doing legislation, that's a problem.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
not a conspiracy theorist. That's
No.
that's called stating it the way it is. And this whole thing has gotten so out of freaking control. You know, you take and eliminate cigarette, the Marlboro Man has to leave TV. You know, women were crushed for years that he was off TV.
Yeah.
Of course, he died of cancer anyway. But
And he was gay, so it didn't make much difference.
that's right. But the point is that it was replaced by Cialis commercials and Viagra commercials. and
That's
stuff.
right. And I was boots on the ground. I'm in healthcare, and I got free lunches every day.
Yeah.
Free lunches every day. Who bought my free lunch every day? I was in
The
healthcare.
And they give you all sorts of
and
stuff.
I
like
had
Post-its.
pens, and I have Post-its and pens still with all these different
But I
drug
mean,
names on them,
that's
right?
let's
So
go back to the common sense
That's
side, right?
just
If you
I'm a
have
regular
5
person.
people
Yeah.
in your ear telling you which way you're supposed to vote or what you're supposed to do, that are there every day, and your constituents are thousands of miles away, who are you listening to?
Well,
That's
so,
right.
but the point you make is because somebody allowed it. The politicians who are the representatives wrote it in so that could happen. They write in their pay, they write in their vacations, they write in their health care, they write in their perks. Where, if you're employed in the United States, can you say, well, I'm taking a vacation because this is the day I want to do it, and I'm taking 8 weeks because that's what I want, and I'm going to get.
If you're self-employed,
Totally. That's
self-employed.
what I'm saying is the system has gotten out of control.
Well,
And here's the difference. I mean, it's probably been equally out of control.
For 200 years.
It's been broken for a long, long time. The difference is now information travels so fast that we see it, and the hypocrisy is evident.
We have no third party.
Too many people.
There's
Too
no
many.
third party
That-
to oversee it. They're
That's
overseeing themselves.
That too is the good thing. It's now visible. It's
True.
now visible. Before it was invisible. Just
True.
like the hate is now visible. The racism, the injustice is all visible. So now we have an opportunity to start fixing it. But the only people who are going to fix it are not the people in office. It's the people in the streets who either have to vote differently or assume office in place of the people who are there, not violently, of course, but they need to do something in order to rewrite the laws back to favor the people instead of favoring the so-called representatives. This is why I always say leaders don't call themselves leaders. When you have people in Washington saying we're leaders, we're congressional leaders, senatorial leaders, judicial leaders, whatever, they're wrong. They're elected representatives
Employees
who
of
are
the
not
people.
representing.
Agreed.
But you know, this is what I was going to say about common sense. This brings us back to the topic of common sense. When there's so much information out there, some of these people are believing all the bullshit out there that they forget the common sense that some of the stuff that makes no sense.
Right,
So
that's
why
right.
believe some of the stuff that doesn't make any sense?
Right, but the thing is
That's
also one thing. Going back to Scott for a second, I want to say one thing to finish that point off. Because the thing is because come from England, I have a contrast of England and America, different styles. They're both democracies, except America is built on capitalism, whereas England's not. So the way things get done differently in the medical profession, for example, there is such a focus on, and thank Reagan for the HMOs. There's such a structure in place that's about money over health, which is one reason why the medical system doesn't serve the people very well. Again, same as the government. They're focusing on the profit, not on what the people that they want to help. Same as the government is focused on power versus the people they help. There's an issue going on both places.
Well,
You did say that sarcastically, correct? Thank Reagan for the HMOs.
Second, I can blame
That was sarcasm you were exhibiting, right?
about
Thanking Reagan for the
Thank-
HMOs.
HMOs. That was sarcasm.
Yeah.
That was sarcasm. Yeah, probably.
Well, here's the thing.
I mean, before the HMOs, you had a right to your own medical care, and with HMOs, you suddenly didn't have any rights. That's why I was questioning.
Right.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Right.
That was my. So I was in healthcare for 30 years, and you think, and we were talking, even like correlating to politicians. You go in with a certain mindset how you're going to improve something. You're going to have process improvement from quality controls that you're looking at. I was in management in a hospital, and then you realize that your hands are tied. You can't do anything. And so when you're saying, yeah, a politician needs to come in there, well, their hands are tied. I'm sorry, but it's the truth. Once they get up into that position, just like I did, I was in my dream job and my hands were tied. I was the face of management, but I wasn't managing or leading anything.
That's actually the structure of American politics is to
Yes.
is to absorb the new person so that they can't throw the system over.
Correct.
They
So,
become
I mean, I understand it. Mhm.
Well, they absorb by making deals and negotiating and chips and passing back and forth to the. They come in going, I'm going to change the system, and
That's
2,
right.
3, 4, 5 years later, they're part of the system.
Well,
So, yeah.
or you quit, and that's what I had to do. I had to get out because my integrity was being,
But what
my
I want
integrity
to
for
what I want
myself.
to ask you, or what I want to put, what you said was amazing. You said I got free lunch, but nobody today, very few are championing. Hey, how about lunch for kids all year round? How about just making sure that kids
Right.
are fed all year round, whether they can afford it or not afford it, whether they're black or white, they live in the South, the North, they're wherever they live,
Right.
they should get lunches. I mean, we give them to
Right.
politicians.
I
we give
got
them
free lunches on a prescription pad. Let's just
who
put it
can
that way.
afford it, right?
Mhm. I got a free lunch out of prescription.
Gourmet,
I work,
gourmet one.
I work
There are
with-
so many people who fall between the cracks of government assistance and making $1 too much that they don't qualify for medical care or housing care or food care. And then somebody's going to go, well, they'll just use it for booze or drugs, or they'll buy, movie tickets with their, let's just cut to the chase.
Right.
People who have a lot of money don't want to give the poor people any money because they want to keep the money for themselves. And the poor people, more people I've met want to be productive. I've in my life, in all of my years, my advanced years, I've met one or two people who said, yeah, I'm just going to kind of coast with, but everybody else wants to work. They want to be productive. They want to add to value to their family, their friends, or everybody else. It's not the poor people who are gaming the system. It's the big people who are gaming the system to prevent the poor people and the middle class and anyone else from having a bit of what they have. Just look at Clarence Thomas, for God's sakes. And I hate to have to name him, but when that guy can travel all around the thing and not recuse himself from different things and he benefits, how many of you benefit that way? How many viewers benefit that way?
Not too many that I know of.
Ask the person who's on welfare if they're benefiting that way.
I work with a lot of people with a lot of problems, and I see some of the worst of it, where these people who really should be getting help have no access to help. And I'm not talking about, I'm not going to talk about the heroin addicts coming off the street, because I know America doesn't give a shit about them. They just assume they die in the streets. I get it. There's some of us that work towards fixing that. And there's others that just don't care. But our veterans are coming back. The number of veterans that are homeless is astounding. The number of veterans that go without health care, because the VA, which is doing the best it can, and what it should be the greatest organization in the world should be our VA system. We have the largest military in the world, the most well-funded military in the world, and one of the worst aftercare programs when people come back from war. We think of everything backwards. We bow down to the rich and we walk over the poor. Everything is backwards. We doctors that take a Hippocratic oath to say, I'll do no harm. But then as soon as they're in a hospital system, they can do nothing but harm because they can't treat people the way they want to treat people.
Their hands are tied.
They got 6 minutes.
Our country is not the greatest country in the world. I love our country. It's a mess. And the biggest problem is because everybody looks around and says, I can't do anything about it. And the truth is we can. The truth is when we got senators and congressmen having a stroke while they're talking and then the next day making decisions on a budget. Are you shitting me? We need to be voting these people out. We need to be looking for new people. Stop listening to the people at the top who have lost touch You know, do you think Biden or Trump has any idea what it's like to go to a grocery store or to have to go get dental care and they don't have any dental insurance? Do they have any idea what it's like? No. And neither do any of the congressmen or senators. I'll tell you that right now, because they get 100% salary as a retirement.
Yeah, and they write bounce checks too.
Yeah.
Ask me how I know. I tried to collect on that shit back in the day.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But what the one common sense that we need to gain back is that we came here because we didn't want to be oppressed and we thought the people mattered. And now we're right back to zero where people don't matter. The system matters. Mm-hmm. And we've got to reverse that. And I'm not saying I don't believe in violence. I don't believe in January 6th. I don't believe in hurting people. I don't believe in that. But I believe in using the power we do have, which is stop using services that take advantage of you. Stop taking pills because the TV tells you to. Scott, you made a great point. The United States has 5% of the world's population. 5% of the world's population lives in the U.S., but we use 80% of the world's supply of pain medications.
Yeah.
We're trained from the day we're born to take a pill.
No doubt.
The day we're born to be subservient to the people that we elect instead of them being subservient to us.
You got two washing machines in the house, one for the clothes and one for your brain.
Right. But keep in mind that a lot of this happened within the last 40, 50, 60 years, because prior to that, the Food and Drug Administration more or less looked out for the consumer and not for the big pharma. I mean, things got changed. The founding fathers of this country were very flawed, rich, landowners, slave owners, the thing. But they wrote a constitution to preserve their rights and in theory made it applicable to everyone. That's what the Statue of Liberty was all about. Bring me your needy, your poor, your homeless, whatever, so that it applied to everyone. And since that time, they've been other people who get into power are rewriting it to exclude those very people who weren't originally intended to benefit, but as a result of the country being founded, got to benefit. And in the last 60 years or so, since the 70s, 60s, 70s, or 80s, we've seen just so much. We look at our obesity, look at the tax rates, look at the amount of pills that are taken, look at the stuff in our food, look at the stuff that's poisoning us, look at the veterans that are coming back. And, it's a really fairly recent phenomenon for all of the crap to hit the wall, but it's gotten so big. Now going back to the common sense thing just very quickly, a friend of mine from the last administration, the president and his wife and family living in the White House, my friend was in charge of programming his VCR. So if in the middle of the night he couldn't turn on Fox News or whatever he wanted to watch, this guy had to run to the White House and show him how to do it. I would need the same help. So I'm not making a comment about the president at that time. I'm just saying that if it hadn't been for the guy who knew how to do it, the peon that knew how to do it, he wouldn't be able to watch his show. I wouldn't be able to watch mine. People don't understand that wealth that we have today, except for all the digital wealth and all the stock changing, that kind of stuff, and the inherited wealth. Wealth comes from the worker bees doing their job and adding value to the customers and clients who the companies serve. And all these CEOs have massive salaries as if they're so great. But if it weren't for the worker bees, none of them would be serving anybody because they can't do it. They're the person in charge. They're not the person carrying things out. And you have to realize that the foot soldier is the one who does more. I mean, think about those people who are carrying guns and going into battle at the point, or the people who got up, out of the ducks in the water and ran, I mean, who does that? It's not the leaders.
No.
Right.
It's the people who've been ordered to do it, so you got to go, as the common person, for the most part, is the backbone of America. And because the common person is hurting, America is hurting.
Absolutely.
No doubt.
Yeah.
I agree. But it's got into a real serious side.
Well, but that's,
part.
Scott, what you were saying about, we can't do anything about it. We have to do anything about it. Again, for me, I say it with respect, honor, and dignity, because respect starts with us being all able to talk to each other.
Right.
Right. The fact is you can't fly off the handle and everybody can't be mad at everything, and oh my God, you didn't get my pronoun right. Like,
Right.
how the fuck am I supposed to know what your pronoun is?
Yeah.
I'm not a mind reader.
Mhm.
I'm sorry. I missed it. It wasn't purposeful. It wasn't to offend you. The offense is taken by the person who's offended. Most people don't purposely offend people. Most people don't walk up to people to purposely do that. We just got to get over the whole, but again, this is part of the common sense. We used to have, manners. This is going to sound really probably stupid, but I remember going off to college and I said, Mom, I think I need the book. What's it called? Like Miss Manners. Because I think, I'm going to be in a new environment and I think I'm going to need to know new things.
Mhm.
Now, I mean, it sounds goofy to even say that, but at some point, that's the way I felt, that I wanted to improve me so that I could be a better person around other people. Now, have I been perfect? Most of the time. But no,
Goes
of
without
course
saying.
not. We've all jacked up. But the point is, what's the intent, right? And I think that that's a big part of this is the name calling. Both sides are so jacked up right now. The ridiculousness of somebody has just got to put everybody in timeout
Yeah.
and just say, hey, listen, you pinheads, somehow you were elected to be here and it's time for you to start listening to we the people. You can beat the Constitution up as much as you want to beat it up for what it's become, but it was set as the groundwork and the foundation of what it's supposed to be. One of the things, if we should work to get back to it, the way that the intention was set, stop trying to change the son of a bitch and put it, to actually do the stuff that it was meant to put in place in the first place.
But we need to educate people on it. That's
the whole. But
that's
see,
the
we're
problem.
not.
The education system has fallen on and not teaching it correctly or teaching it at all.
No,
and
that's the whole
I
point.
live here. I'm lucky. I live in Virginia, so I'm here at Jamestown, Williamsburg, Yorktown. So there's history like in my backyard, and so I go there as much as possible to the American Revolutionary War Museum to educate myself, because I have to keep myself in line too, right? So I need to keep educating myself and remembering, the history and what it was fought for. If you're impassioned by, my ancestors fought for this, and that's what we've lost. We've lost people that were impassioned for the rights.
We've got a whole group of people that think it's right to rewrite history.
Yeah.
History is what history is. Good, bad, or indifferent. There was some great stuff that would happen. There's some real bullshit that happened. There's no doubt about it. But if you take away all the history and you don't learn from it, you're due to repeat it.
Well, but we kind of wrote our history as we went along by sanitizing what we did to the natives and how we've done things.
I don't disagree.
I'm not just saying that if we're gonna go to history, then we need people to check the accuracy of what's coming out there.
Right. And you'd be glad to know in Jamestown, they have reintroduced the actual facts of that, by the way, because they have exhibitions now with all of that, making sure that that's part of it. Just to say they have they took, some of the diversity and put it back in.
Let's not forget the beauty of Gettysburg Battle.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah. Well, come out to Montana and look.
How beautiful that was.
Yeah.
Well, I think we also.
But I want to add one thing. If because I think you put part of the equation there, Scott, and with all due respect, if you mistake someone's pronoun and they're offended by it, yes, but then the appropriate thing to do is to say, "I'm sorry, did I offend you? What can I do to say it differently?" Because there's no reason why we should go around miscalling people whatever they prefer to be called, whether we think that's right or wrong.
True. No, I agree with that, Rex. But
I know you do, but I'm just saying I wanted to follow that through because I agree with you. People take offense for anything, and people are far too thin-skinned. But if I offend somebody, hopefully I'm aware enough to say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to," no disrespect intended, because you respect integrity and honor. I mean, that kind of thing. So,
yeah, no, I mean, but it just the principal point is become unoffendable.
yes,
Let's get back to the fact where people have some thick skin and whatever, and there's just not everybody trying to think that everybody's against them. How about everybody's for you? And let's bring some love back in the world.
People hate this, but I've said it, and people go, and you hear it said all, people dissing it all the time. But I was one of those people who grew up with sticks and stones may break my bones, and that's what we were told to think when somebody was calling us names or saying things or whatever, and there were different things, like my parents were extremely conservative and very, in some ways, very amazing. If I had ever used the N-word, they would have taken me to the shed, and said, you don't ever say that ever to anyone, and what I'm getting at is that there are ways to offend people, and there are ways to become unoffendable, as you said. And I think that we have gotten to the point where we are, in our attempt to not offend anyone, we create greater offense in some ways, because we,
for sure,
and the way to do it is to go back to, look, if you let somebody hurt you, you're the victim. That doesn't mean you hit them back with a brick or a stick. What it means is to develop the understanding that a name is a name, and it's nothing. I mean, one of my greatest experiences was I was doing a walking meditation in Los Angeles. I was going around the block, and to move as absolutely slowly as you possibly can. So it would take me 2-3 hours to get around the block, And I always now think back on all those people whose picture windows it took me an hour to go past. Honey, what did you put in my food? I'm having a hallucination. There's some guy just never leaving so I'm going around, and I lived by a high school, and I was doing this very slow walk, and 3 kids were walking around the track, and they go, "Oi, look at that asshole. Hey, you're an asshole. And I looked up, and in my moment of meditation said, "Thank you. You're right. I am." They're like, because I am. I don't admit it. I'm an asshole a lot of times. And they went, "Oh God, get out of here!" And they took off. They were like, "This guy's spooky." But it was, for me, it was so powerful, because nobody can call me an asshole. Nobody can call me an MFer. Whatever. It's not going to do anything to me. I know who I am. You may not, and if you don't, that's your problem. So but that's not to push it in their face and go, "I'm better than you." It's just to say, right, you can't offend me by what you call me.
Right.
Whether you call me broke, you can call me rich, you can call me scum, you can call me who cares?
As long as you're not standing
Just
next
don't call me at 1 a.m. No, I'm kidding. Call me anytime.
Guys, we've come to about 10 or 12 minutes left, and it's time to do a little bit of a kind of a wrap up for your. We've gone a lot of places with this today.
Not knowing what to talk about, we talked about a lot of things.
And I think common sense is that common sense is mostly subjective, but at the same time, I think what Scott, as he always brings to the table, is kindness and dignity is simply could be a universal law if we would simply all just accept the fact that whether you agree with somebody or not, whether you follow somebody else's path or not, is the understanding that path is their path, and it doesn't mean it's right or wrong. And we go back and the whole history thing and all this stuff. Listen, we can rewrite anything we want to do. We can look at it differently. The truth is that when we were in those moments, what we believed was what the truth was at that time, and that's all we knew. And as we know new things, we change things. So to look back at on our actions with horror and disgust, although it is disturbing, at the same time, if we knew better, we might not have done that, because now we know better today. So it's all part of growth and understanding. You laugh at a baby when it's learning to walk, but then when that baby becomes a mile runner or a marathon runner, does he look back and say, "I sucked as a human being because I couldn't do this then"? No, he had to learn, and we all learn. So anyway, it's such an honor doing this with you guys. I'm going to let everybody out there know we got this show. We're going to do one more show next week, and then we're going to take a little hiatus. We will be showing some reruns, but stick with us here with Lynn, Scott, and friends. Leave comments with the shows, even on the repeats. We'll be watching them. and every once in a while we'll pop up. But we're just going to take a little break for a little while. But we'll be here this week and next week, of course. So let's wrap this up. Barry, let's get back to you. You started this whole thing off, and you're the one.
Way to go, Barry.
Yeah.
Yeah, look where I started. I guess the thing is, for me, boy, there's something worse to go with this. I think getting back to common sense and all the way we went through that journey to get to where we are now, it comes down to really trusting yourself. For me, one of the biggest lessons of common sense is what other people tell me, I don't necessarily need to believe as being the truth. And so oftentimes by being with what I'm aware of and then verifying it, check and verify is a good thing to do too. Then I know what I can build my structure of belief on top of. And so it's easy to get caught up sometimes in the drama or the excitement or the convincing of other people, but trust yourself first. Because that's where common sense really lives.
Excellent. Excellent. Thanks, Barry. As always, man. So good to see you every week. And is the roof done?
Roof is done. Now we're going to do now inside's going to get done in the next couple of weeks when we get the right contractor set up, because they're going to tear the ceilings out to get the mold out. So it's going to be a really messy process for a while. Probably after we do the last show.
So now it's not raining in the house anymore. You realize I got to do some shit in here too.
Because of the rain that came through, yeah.
Sandy, what do you say?
Okay, well, common sense. I haven't always had it. I've had to achieve it. I've had to go through life and gain it. And I had to reach out to other people to help me to get it. So it wasn't just me all by myself. I've introspected and said, oh yeah, I'm terrible here. I don't have any common sense with this or that. So I reached out to other people who were experts in it and who knew a lot more than me, to help me along. So if you don't have any common sense, I hope you reach out to someone to get some, because you can, as long as you're willing to learn, willing to hear the good, the bad, the ugly, and really look at yourself and introspect. So that's my 2 cents.
Love that.
Don't hire a life coach to give you common sense, because most of them are still living in their parents' basements. John Horton.
You know what? If you are living in your parents' basement, mortgage rates are good. So please reach out. We'll get you a place of your own. Everything will be fine for everybody.
Just check how high insurance is, though. Anyways.
Nelly Negative, stop it with the non-common sense.
I'm just being real.
You got to shop it around. Call me. I got a guy for you. Anyway, I took a few notes. Servant leadership. Servant leadership has been a big push in my life as far as my management roles. And one of them was a bank I was at. I'm like, servant leadership. They're like, yeah, you're not a leader unless you do it. You serve the people. I will never say people work for me. Ever, ever, ever. But you lead by example. You lead by that positive attitude. You lead by not the negativity. You lead by common sense. And what I've found is, and Sandy, you nailed it on the head. And Scott, you said it, as we know things, we change things. And I think the difference is, as we get up in age, these younger whippersnappers expect everything delivered on a plate. Everything, and my son was off this weekend after prom for 4 days. And the last thing I said before he left for prom is have some common sense this weekend. He came back safe. All his friends came back safe. But again, I think it's servant leadership by people, family, employees, whoever it is, that if you show it and they show you're successful in it, they're like, that woman, that whatever your pronoun is, they're doing something right because they're doing it and they're successful. So I think the last thing is examples and follow through to those that you don't think have common sense. They need that servant leadership.
Love it, John. Thank you, John.
John, it's a very simple concept you just put out there. Instead of yelling at people, why don't we show them our common sense or show them common sense instead of just yelling all the time about it and nobody having it? Scott, you and I, we don't agree all the time on politics and different things like that. But I got to tell you, I always appreciate the respect that you show for other people's opinions, even if they're, different than yours. And that's one of the things I really love about you, brother. So how do you want to wrap this up, man?
Well, I appreciate that. I think that's, again, we don't always have to agree with everything, but we need to respect each other. We need to honor each other. We need to lift each other up. We've got an amazing opportunity. And Scott, earlier you said, the country isn't I don't remember what you said, but it's still the greatest country in the world. We got some shit going on. There's not a doubt about that fact. But if we pull our heads out and, we start breathing some fresh air and we start looking at some things and calling them like they are and not trying to be argumentative over everything and every position, you want to be right or you want to be happy. It works in marriage. Why doesn't it work in life? Why don't we say the exact same thing, right? I mean, do we have to be right in every situation? Can we just say in our relationships, we want to be happy. We want to be happy with the world. I mean, it's done, as John said, through servant leadership, through being a living example of what you want it to be. I can't get you to do anything else, but I may be able to inspire you to walk a similar path after you've seen it, right? And so if we can be that living example and do those things, I mean, it's crazy. The people that are working to divide us when in fact we are the United States. We should be. Stop trying to portion it all off. I mean, I'm down here in Texas, for goodness sakes. And trust me, you hear it every day down here. Everybody's just going to chill their ass out a little bit, wherever they are, and be that living example and work to lift people up and be kind. And it's not hard to do it. I actually put gas in the car before my wife asked me to today. And I said, oh, by the way, I put gas in the car. And she goes, I didn't even ask you. I said, I know. I mean, it's not that hard. And I'm not sharing that to get anybody to go, oh God, good job. But it's shit like that it's so freaking simple.
Yeah, I love that.
Is just be nice to people. Just do things for people. Well, I've done more than they've done. Get over it. It's not a counting game. So anyway, thanks for everything that you guys do to put this all on. And it's always an honor to be here.
Love you, Scott.
It's our honor. And you're right. This does work in relationships too. And all of my ex-wives would agree with you. Rex.
Yes, I've talked to him.
A lot of great, wonderful wisdom here, and I appreciate it. There's some really dangerous concepts out there in the self-help world and community, like be yourself, just be yourself, or just serve others. I mean, in other words, when you think about it, it'll say like help others, but set boundaries. Why? I mean, in other words, like why? Here, the point I'm trying to make is that we live in a world, we live in society. It's not, the common sense thing of my freedoms end where your nose begins, like my freedom to swing my arm ends where your nose begins. We don't live in isolation. We're not on an island. You can't just do anything you want because you think you're entitled to do it, because you have the freedom or the right to do it. You have to understand we live in society and we need to cooperate and work together in harmony and create something that we can't do by ourselves, but we can do with other people. And sadly, too many people are busy asserting their rights. Well, we talked the comment about the young people today wanting what the old people have. Well, think of it this way: if you went to a buffet and you ate all the food, and then the people show up after you, and well, where the heck the food? You went, well, they ate it. You'd go, wait, I want some too. Why did you do that? We who are older, and people who are older than I am, had greater benefits from this country in many ways than we all do today. So the people coming up behind us don't have the same advantages because there's always been this closing of the field for so many people who come behind, whether that's in education, whether it's in politics, whether it's finance, whatever it is. It makes it harder for the people behind. So the kids today have it much tougher. They don't have the same breaks. We think they do because we're older, going, come on, stop complaining, stop whining, just, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. We did it. Well, the deck isn't really stacked in favor of them today. But that said, that means that all of us together can work together to serve each other, to cooperate together, to make it so that the young can do well, and they can help the old can help the young, and that we help each other, love each other, and through kindness and through respect and through integrity, we understand that we're not the only person here. We are with other people. So let's make sure that all people rise together like that. When the tide rises, it floats the boat and everyone in it. That would be something we could all do.
Very, very well put. Very, as always, and as always, we're so grateful all of you guys join us every Tuesday night. And a reminder, we'll be back next Tuesday, so please join us and please follow this and share it with your friends. Lynn, take us home. Tell us how to end the show.
Well, this has been a great topic, and as always, thank you, Barry, for throwing in a topic today, and it was great. The common sense thing is not so common sometimes, and I think for me, I didn't have common sense. What I was too naive on a lot of things, which I think is, naive, not common sense, whatever. And, having that street smarts, like Rex says, getting that street smarts and just knowing what's right from wrong. And like you said, Barry, earlier, listening to your own common sense or your intuition. Common sense hides in all those different things of street smarts and having your intuition and all these different things. It's kind of a in between thing, but hanging with the right people and seeing, you can pick things up from them and the stories they tell and the common sense of being in the right place at the wrong time and vice versa and things like that. It's been a great time doing the show with you guys and all the wisdom you guys give. So it's an honor to know you guys and to do this show. So as always, just love being here with you guys. And I'm also just looking forward to a break as well. So, but as always, love being here with you guys and look forward to our show next week. So hopefully you guys can make it. So anyways, have a good one, guys. Love you guys. See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Keeping me safe.